a reminder that Christianity is a white supremacist cult and that your sincerely held beliefs are actually a mental illness caused by generational abuse. The church has never had the moral high ground as they essayed, burned, and pillaged their way through history and currently function as a real estate hoarding tax shelter that protects pedophiles.
What if I told you that boys might be going extinct?
Women just don't qualify for the top tier men, and that is the truth.
You believe you're a top tier man? By what standard?
I'm 6'4". Only about 8% of the entire world is 6'4". I make well over 100K a year, and I'm black at that if you add that on. So just if we're speaking about those figures, the things that women are attracted to, no, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I'll let you do the math.
Okay, before we go, what's your math saying?
The conversation and the words that are coming out of the mouth of someone like you, I would never consider top tier. A top tier man is also a man that is extremely desirable by way of his character. A top tier man is a man who displays a certain level of intellect that allows him to consider other people. A top tier man, they lead with love, not with dictatorship, right? They don't want to control their woman. They want to gently lead their woman. A top tier man creates space for a woman to feel good about herself. A top tier man supports the dreams and the ideas of a woman. A top tier man prioritizes a woman. A top tier man is in leadership and working as hard as he is to give the woman the life of her dream.
And with all that stuff that you just said, that was just womanese talk.
Womanese is also 6'4", black, attractive. I don't know too many women in my circle who desire a 6'4" man still wearing braids.
Hello, let me somebody's hi, my loves. How are you doing today? So I'm back with another video, podcast. So the content creator, she changed her name to Isis, which I didn't realize was her real name. I was like, Isis, why would she name herself that on YT? Because I was thinking more politics. That's where my first thought was. But I don't know. People have been saying that perhaps is her real name, so perhaps that's the case. She used to go by the trophy wife or the new trophy wife or something of that nature. And so this has sparked quite the debate online. It has become quite the show conversation, however you want to put it. So don't forget to smash that like button for me. Okay. Love you so much. Don't forget to smash the subscribe and hit the bell notification as well, so you don't miss a podcast every time it comes out. If you haven't gotten caught up on the lives, make sure to get caught up on the lives immediately after this one, because again, a lot of these things we covered, right? I mean, even down to the data as to what percentage of males are unalivers and pedos, right? Like, it's all there, y'all. It's all there. So make sure to get caught up on the lives, because those are so relevant, especially in this particular case. Let's go ahead and dive right in and see what we've got here.
This trophy wife lady, let's talk about it. I got so much to say about this situation because there's just so many layers to it. First thing being how desperate a lot of y'all are to become these trophy wives, to be these kept women. So much that you'll put your children's safety at risk in order to try to get it. So she talks about how she met her now husband and how she used to listen to Sprinkle, led her to go on eHarmony, which is already desperate enough. But you go on there looking for this provider. You find this man who you think is Prince Charming. You know why you thought he was Prince Charming? Because you didn't know him. That's typically why y'all get so surprised by men's actions down the line, and you just can't believe that he would be capable of doing all of these things that he do. It's because you don't know him. It's because you got involved with somebody and married somebody and moved in with him and brought your 2 sons into a house with a man that you don't even really know. That's how you got tricked. Like when I listened to her story and she talked about how she was in a serious relationship with one man, she had already moved in with him. They break up. Soon as she break up with him, not even 72 hours later, you on the phone with your now husband, and now you talking about moving in with this man. Like it's very much desperate. It's very much pathetic. It's very much you don't care about your son's safety because you just keep jumping from household to household with these different men that you don't even know. Men can smell the desperation on women. They can smell it, right? So not only are you on the phone telling this man you barely know that you need somewhere to stay with you and your sons, this man bring up marriage to you prematurely and you run out and go buy a ring because you want to make sure he's serious about marrying you. You smell desperate. He can smell it on you. A lot of these men who are predators, they seek out pick-me women because they know one thing about those type of women. They weak-minded and they desperate for a man. And they desperation for a man will make the accessibility to the children easier. And it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that these women want a man so bad that they sacrifice their children's well-being in the process. And I already can hear y'all now, give her grace, give her grace. I'm not giving her grace. You know why? Because children were harmed. And I don't play about kids. I don't play about kids. And I definitely don't play about kids being SA'd, right? So I appreciate the fact that when she found out, she did something about it and she believed her children, but she won't get no grace from me because in the end, it's your bad decision-making that got you there, that got your kids harmed in the first place. One day y'all gonna learn about just listening to anybody get online and telling you that they can sell you this ebook, they can give you this step-by-step instructions on how to meet a good man, how to meet a rich man. If you meet them type of men, that's by the grace of God, but nobody can give you a handbook on it, especially not somebody who had to listen to somebody else. You telling me you had to listen to Sprinkle, and now you think you so much of an expert that you could be selling ebooks and you could give out instructions and build a whole channel off of something that you ain't even mastered, off of a man who ain't even the man that you think that you married to, right? But this is how it always play out because you can't listen to these people online. You don't know what happens when these phones close. You have no idea what they're dealing with behind the scenes. She came forward and told the truth about what's going on behind her scenes, but there's so many who will never do it, right? There's so many women who come online and sell you a dream and they never tell you what they have to pay for it for real offline. At the end of the day, I'm very saddened by this situation, and my heart goes out to those two little girls who were harmed by that sick man. And I hope that any other desperate woman out there who don't use her discernment and puts her kids in harm's way, I hope that you learn from this.
Police officer escorted the kids and I to another hospital where they were able to evaluate my daughters. It ended up coming out that he had actually been touching both of my daughters. Who are only 2 and 4 years old.
I wanted to call attention to the two what I would call leaders of these movements. One being Shera 7 and the other being Kevin Samuels. As you guys know, if you've already watched my other videos, that Shera 7, her teachings changed my life. And I would not be where I am today without her teachings. I didn't discover Kevin Samuels until after I was married. And when I listened to Kevin Samuels, I learned a lot about the way women see relationships and the way that men see relationships. He also talked about the importance of staying in shape and being fit and how that can either work for you or work against you in the dating market and even in a marriage. He had me making sure that I'm keeping my body together and I'm, staying just as good as I looked when my husband.
So, she's delusional. Complete airhead. That's what I call these types of women that think in this way is like, okay, so here we have another one that doesn't have a brain. Okay. Sorry, not sorry. I know it sounds harsh, but that's just what I think. That's how I feel about it. Like, who sits there listening to Kevin Samuels? Who sits there listening to any male tell you what you should and shouldn't be? Like, how does that even make sense to you? It's like, how does it make sense to you to want to stay in shape, have a good body, stay toned because of a male? Not because it's healthy, not for yourself, not because you enjoy looking good, not because you enjoy looking your best, but because you want to do it for a male. Like, it's like I'm living in Twilight Zone. But the thing is, she's not alone. I promise over 70% of women think in this way, at least in the US. Complete airheads. I had women commenting back to me. This is the level of stupidity that we're dealing with, just so you know, y'all. In the comment that she made about the male abusing her 2-year-old and her 4-year-old daughters. And when I responded with that comment, I responded with another comment saying, women, I said the same thing basically. Women with children under the age of 18 should not date, period. And then I had the stupidity of this. I'm telling you, like, and I think this is going to be, I'm not even going to look, it's going to only be women that are on the same wavelength mentally as me, because I can't even take it. You know, you can't even save them anyway. So it's like a pointless waste of time trying to help them because they can't be helped. They really just can't. They can't. That's what I'm learning, right? But she says to me, so what are women supposed to do then? Turn lesbian? And I'm thinking to myself, is this for real? Like, is this like the world we live? Like, is this real? So I responded to her and I said, what do you mean turn lesbian? I'm telling you to be single. And you can't even, she literally couldn't even, her brain couldn't even process that, to the point where her brain just completely ignored the fact that, look, you could just be single. What's the problem? Right? Like, it's like, it was like a different language to her. It's like trying to speak French or something and you don't know how to speak French. It was such a different language to her that her brain didn't even internalize it, didn't process it. It just skipped over to, well, who's the next body that I can just have here next to me for no reason? So you just want us to be lesbian? No, ma'am, I'm telling you to be single. If you want to be lesbian, you can do that too. Better than a male, as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm saying is, be single. Especially if you have kids. Definitely if you have kids under the age of 18. Like, why do I have to say that? Why do I have to explain that? Isn't that obvious? Am I missing something? Is it me? Like, drop it in the comments below. Because I'm starting to think like, okay, you know, there's no way. And what I will say is, I knew it was going to be an issue because the way Shera thinks, most women don't think that way. They cannot comprehend it. And most women will think they understand it, but they don't. They'll say, oh, I get it. Let me go ahead and implement that. I'm high value. And meanwhile, they're no better than the male species. Okay. So I already knew it was going to be an issue because the way people like Shera think is actually quite rare. It's rare. So even if she gives you all the answers, you're still not going to be able to do anything with it because you don't have the way her brain functions. You don't have that. You don't have it. So that's what I'll say about that is it's to be expected because the way Shera's mind works, it's not common. Most women operate like they are like, you know, they're just not operating on the frequency that they're supposed to be operating on. So they're not on that level. They don't really understand what's really going on, right? A lot of them are delusional by choice, mind you, by choice. Okay.
To be smart, not desperate. If you're desperate, don't claim me. I'm sorry. But if you're sitting out there, you learned everything from me. Did you learn how to be smart? Did you learn how not to be desperate? Then you didn't learn from me. You learned from whoever putting clips out on TikTok 30 seconds long. You didn't learn from me. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Did you learn from this channel or did you learn from 30-second clips on TikTok? Because I didn't put those out. You didn't learn from the YouTube channel? Did you learn over here? Did you learn what I said after 30 seconds? Did you hear what I said after sprinkle, sprinkle? Or before? Did you hear that? Did you hear when I said stop being desperate? Did you hear when I said don't be a pygmisha? Did you hear when I talked about background checks? Did you hear when I talked about all this other stuff? About not dealing with men if you have kids until they're old and grown enough to speak for themselves and be in school and whatnot? Did you not hear when I said all of that? Because you was not following the real account? Don't blame me. Uh-oh.
Well, the unfortunate part is that I have seen the video that she posted, this trophy wife lady posted. I've seen the comments underneath it. I was part of the comments underneath it, girl. I never think, so here's the thing, I never think that my thought process and the way that I think and move is a big deal until I say it in public. And it turns out most people, like over 99% of people, don't think in the same way that I do. And then I realize, okay, so I'm the only one that thinks in this way. Interesting. But I never think, I mean, it's always, to me, the way that I think, it's like, well, duh, you know what I'm saying? So it started a whole thing where, it was this massive comment thread of replies back and forth, because someone posted something about a bell. So after watching this horrific video of what this male did to a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, I just couldn't believe that the first thought someone might have is, what are the red flags? Or I put doorbells on my door. Mind you, y'all, I have doorbells on my door because it's called a Ring security system, and I live by myself. So every single one of my doors has a Ring security system on it. And one of the things that it does is and on my windows also. So it chimes anytime that it's opened or touched or whatever. So it's a really, really good security system to have. I just couldn't believe that, like, that was the first thought after hearing something like that was, yeah, that's why I put doorbells on my kiddos' doors. Like, we just heard a male do the most atrocious thing that you could possibly do to a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and that's your first thought. So I left in the comments and I said, well, I said something like, what are you talking about? Because women who have children that are under the age of 18 should not be dating, period. And I think it was too lit underneath there, because I'm pretty sure that the content creator, deleted that comment thread because it was heated, because I said that everyone started losing their minds. All these women started losing their minds. We can date if we have, no, you cannot. You cannot date if you have children that are under the age of 18. Like, what the caliber of women that we have today is not it. Period. It's like, these people shouldn't even be having children. We talk about the males all the time. So it's good for us, because this brings up the important conversation that, look, how can you sit there and argue against something that's so obvious? You know, and this created the biggest uproar ever, as if this trophy wife lady already had 2 kiddos, males. If she would have stopped the cycle of bad decision making, stopped being so selfish, and she would have at least tried to choose those kids first, stop trying to chase after this male and that male and that male and this, ni que esto, que lo otro, ni que esto. If she would have just stopped doing that because, oh my gosh, I have 2 kids, let me figure out what I'm going to do. that focuses fully on this kiddos, she wouldn't be in this situation right now. And then you have the knuckleheads coming through and talking about, boy, these were these were his kids. They were his blood kids. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. She literally wouldn't be in this situation if she would not continue to make selfish decision after selfish decision that doesn't make any sense. She literally wouldn't be here in the first place. And furthermore, some airhead decided to comment back to me talking about furthermore, and then didn't even make a point after writing furthermore. It was wild. I was like, what are you talking about? Right? And even beyond that, these women will like fight tooth and nail just to keep dating males. It's like, even if it doesn't solve, because they'll say things to me like, well, that still doesn't solve the problem because these were his birth children. Even if it doesn't solve the problem completely in your mind, which is the better option? Which is the safer option? So because you feel like you want to use the excuse that it doesn't solve the problem 100% in your mind, so I might as well go out and put my kids in even more danger. I might as well go out and just F them kids, right? I'm going to do what I want, YOLO, right? And then leave society with the burdens that end up being your children. See what I'm saying? It's like, what are we even talking about? Even underneath that way of thinking, it doesn't make sense. Regardless of what you do, regardless of what you say, it is the safest option. Do not date if you have kiddos under the age of 18, period. It's literally the same thing. And these are the same airheads that will start harassing and complaining because they keep changing laws to make the legal age for messing with a girl younger and younger. Like in some states, it's not even 18, y'all. In some states, it's 16. In some, 13, 14. But you want to complain to the government, but yet in your own house, you cannot even live off of those values. You don't mind dating a rando, a male of all species, right? But a male of all things, you don't mind. Like I covered this in my last live. Over 95% of all crime, violence, unaliving, pedos, males. This is the species that you don't mind being around when you have young kiddos. Are you insane? Have you lost your mind? Talking about bells on doors. Ma'am, you wouldn't even have to worry about bells on doors if you were doing what you're supposed to be doing. You wouldn't even have to worry about that. And this is why I think it's a poverty. This is a poverty mindset. I think because a lot of America is poor, they just don't think in this way. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a completely different way of thinking. The further down the patriarchal hierarchy that you go, I suppose, right? But it just was shocking to me because I'm like, how is that the first thing that came to your mind after hearing this atrocity? Just put a ringer on your kid's door. And then it was such a brand new idea to people. It was wild. I'm like, this is not a new idea. Like, what are you talking? Ring has had this for years. That's called a ring security system. I have it all over. I'm looking at it right now. I have it on my windows because it's probably a good idea for you to put it on the windows. What if someone tries to break in through your windows? Okay. Because I live by myself, right? I have it on all my doors. Okay. This has been around for years. The first thing I thought of, because I live by myself, is security. I was like, okay, I'm going to need a whole full comprehensive security system because mills are just, they're scary to me. There's nothing that they wouldn't do. Okay.
I had my first child when I was 17 years old. I intentionally got pregnant with my boyfriend at the time and basically turned into a child raising a child. A few years later, had my second child. So after having 2 children and being a single mom, I think that my self-esteem was definitely low. I didn't know that at the time, but
So one of the things that I notice here is, well, I've noticed a lot of things, but one of the main things that I've noticed here is she's like, well, it happened after. My low self-esteem came after having the kiddos and after having the 2 children. No, ma'am, you had low self-esteem well before that. I mean, it's debatable at this point whether or not you were even like you were born with self-esteem. I could believe if someone were to tell me, oh, this person was literally born with self-esteem, with low self-esteem, I would believe that because your low self-esteem didn't come as a result of being a single mother. Your low self-esteem didn't come after having the first or the second child. You already had low self-esteem. That's obvious. That's obvious because otherwise, being so young, you wouldn't have made it your primary job to continuously seek out these males and continuously pop out kids like you're getting paid to do so. Okay. One of the main and only reasons that happens is because you have low self-esteem from the get-go. It's non-existent. It's not even low. It's literally non-existent self-esteem. It's like you don't even know who you are. You don't even know you don't even have a sense of your being. So that's the first mistake. Also, we can kind of see here, y'all. We can kind of see like in the picture in the background. Oh, I wish it would let me. Yeah, right there. That's the pedo. Right there in that picture. That's the pedo right there. Okay. Right there. Okay. And she needs to come and post like even clearer pictures so that we can know exactly what this pedo looks like, because that's super important.
I think back about the kind of men that I was choosing, it definitely was a reflection of my lower self-esteem. I think that growing up, I was not taught the kind of men that I should be looking to attract and be in a relationship with. My mom drilled into me, oh, go with the man that's going to be the best breeder. And I think society drilled into me to go after the thug, the street dude, the swag type dude, or whatever you want to call it.
So now she's talking about the street dude, the thug, the blah, 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 blah. We cover this on my channel all the time. Thug, street dude, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Out of all males, every single one of them, over 95% of them are unalivers, pedos, abusers. That's out of all of them. And part of what's wrong is you have women that are raising these kids with this type of mentality, the mentality that makes no sense. And so it's making it even worse.
But neither one of those was the best approach to going about dating and attracting a husband. So after having my second child, I was working hard. I was making really good money. I think I was making about maybe $90K at the time, which for me as a 24-year-old woman was good. I thought I was doing good. I had my own plates. I owned my car. I was very self-sufficient, all about the mindset of, oh, I can do it by myself. I don't need a man, as so many of us modern women say. I can do it all by myself. And I soon realized after one Christmas of it just being me and my 2 boys that I wanted a family. I wanted more for myself.
So this happens all the time to women, right? Like she keeps trying to fill in an internal gap, a gap that she has internally within herself with external things. Oh, so you're making $90K a year. You're able to take care of your kiddos and things like that. And you never stopped to think about, okay, what's really going on? Because I'm 2 kids in. I'm 2 children in at this point, right? If I really wanted this family, if I really wanted this dynamic, then that's where I would have spent my time, is trying to figure out how to actually make that come about and how to make sure that I'm choosing correctly. But at this point, I'm 2 kids in. So is that really the problem? With a family, without a family, now I have a good job. I'm able to take care of myself and the kids, and I'm still having an issue. I'm still feeling like there's something missing. She does, so a lot of women are this way. The lack of cognitive processing skills is wild. It's like, so the first thing you resort to is going back and making the same mistakes that you've made in the past. Like, it doesn't even make sense. And a lot of women just don't understand and don't take the time to understand that no male can fill in whatever. Like, if you're feeling lonely to the extent that she described, if you're having that incredible feeling of loneliness, that is not something that a male can solve for you. He cannot solve that. That's very much a you problem. That's a you problem. That's literally a problem that you would have no matter who the male is. So even if you were to find this perfect male, he might just end up leaving you because you're not self-sufficient enough. You're not confident enough. You have all these problems that you have not dealt with. There's no reason for you to be feeling all sad and depressed and blah, 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 and you're able to comfortably take care of your kiddos. And you could have even started a business. You could have started businesses. Even if you want that family dynamic, when you want it this badly, where you're willing to put your kids at risk, I mean, you have a problem. When you want it so badly that you can't just stop dating until your kids are at least 18 years old, you have a problem. If you're one of those that says, oh, you can still date if you have kids, you have a problem. You have a problem. I'm sorry to tell you, someone's got to tell you. There's something wrong with you. You need help. And males prey off of this. They prey off of it because they know that you're weak. You're mentally weak. So they can get whatever they're wanting to get or whatever they're needing to get so much easier.
After me and him broke up, well, let me rewind. So we ended up breaking up because he just didn't really vibe with my oldest son, who was 5 at the time. I could tell that he was really just putting up with my kids. He didn't really embrace them.
So her oldest son was 5, and she's bringing randos. Keep this in mind, around her own children. She's bringing random males around her own children. Her oldest son is 5. This poor child is like no more than 5 years old, which means the youngest is even younger than that. And she's talking about, well, he's not vibing with my 5-year-old. Only God knows what that male might have done to that 5-year-old, to where that 5-year-old might have been behaving in whatever way that he was behaving. And so I really think there's a big issue with women not taking accountability and responsibility for their own stupid decisions. I mean, it's stupidity through and through. I have a certain level of empathy for her having to go through this insane experience. It's surreal. I can't even imagine having to go through that. Finding out that was happening to your kiddos, it's mind blowing to me. But at the same time, I mean, this is a stupid individual. Like, you have a 5-year-old, you have a kiddo that's even younger than that, and you're bringing males left, right, center talking about, well, he wasn't vibing with my 5-year-old, so I needed to find somebody else. Desperate. And you're making more than enough to take care of your kids. You're not even thinking about like the kids themselves. Talking about, oh, I'm depressed. It's the worst I felt. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, you got 2 kids to worry about. So no, my sympathy can only go so much, but I'm seeing more and more that, look, most of these women, this is how they think, and you can't save them. I mean, I talk about on my channel all the time, don't date these males, especially, and I don't even have any kids, and I'm telling you that. So imagine if you have 2 kids already, 5 and 1 below the age of 5. What are you doing? You think that level of loneliness can be cured by a male? If you feel lonely at any point in time, and it's to the point where you're getting depressed, a relationship cannot help you. Most single women that are single, why do you think those are usually the women that are the happiest based off of the data? It's because that's internal. That's an internal source. That's an internal issue. You cannot seek that from anything that's external, especially not a male. What is he going to do? He can't help you with that. So you're putting your unrealistic, idiotic standards on a male species that barely knows what 2 + 2 is. You know what I mean? Like, make it make sense.
I, didn't want to get my hopes up, so I just said that, he's saying all these things, but I'm going to see what action that he takes. And so I had just got paid, and I was like, okay, we seem like we're really talking about seriously entertaining the idea of getting married. So I'm going to go and get the wedding ring. We were talking about getting married like the next week, and he was out of town in Colorado, so we hadn't seen each other. This is all talk, but we're going over FaceTime. So I went and got his ring. I think I paid like $300 for it. It wasn't like a super flashy ring like the one he has now, which is completely a lot better.
Desperate, desesperado, thirsty. She went and got the ring herself. It's like, if you think in this way, and I'm not even trying to be mean, but you have a real serious problem. Like, there's something wrong with your mind. And it's unfortunate that I'm seeing that most women think in this way. It's also unfortunate that I think a lot of it is caused by the patriarchy. A lot of it is just caused by the conditioning. And it's ironic because if you had stronger women, you would probably have a higher birth rate. So it doesn't, she's like, I went and got him the ring. But then she says that she learned everything from Shera. And honestly, I don't see Shera ever saying, I've never seen her say, go get the male's ring yourself. I've never seen that come out of her mouth. Like, you should be the one to go get the ring for sure so you can pressure him into it by basically proposing to him yourself. Girl, away. So you can't pin this on anybody else.
But I went and got his ring, and the next time we talked on FaceTime, I was like, I did something. And he was like, what did you do? I was like, I got your wedding ring. So he was like, no, you didn't. Show me. So I showed him. I said, yeah, I actually did it. I don't know if you were really being serious, but, we're talking about getting married. So I have a really bad habit of, spending money. And I was like, if I don't get the ring now, then I'm not going to get it. So I went ahead and got it. And that put the fire under him to, I guess, really go and look for my ring. Well, let me rewind. So then after that, I think it was the next day, somebody told me to go online and check my eHarmony profile. So I went on there and I had this picture and I was like, oh no, this dude is.
That's another thing. She found him on eHarmony. That's a dating app, y'all. I've made so many podcasts telling women to stay away from these apps. It's the easiest way for male predators to find you, because most male predators, guess what they're going to be? Super lazy. So they're not even going to want to be out there in the real world trying to find their prey in that way. They want the easiest way possible to access. And that's through those dating apps. The only thing these male predators will put effort into is to not get themselves caught based off of their predatory ways and behaviors. I keep saying, and hopefully this will get even more women to get off these apps, because I don't really know. It's 2024. We're going into 2025. What are you still doing on the app? Are you insane? If you're a woman, like, what are you still doing on there? Why are you on there?
You said somebody got married after 1 week. Do they need a green card, ma'am? Were they about to get kicked out the country or something? I don't see no reason to marry somebody after only knowing somebody a week. That's not smart. Okay. Shera, how do you make him pay for university studies? Ask him. If he likes you a lot, he'll offer. If anybody marries somebody after 1 week, they dumb. I'm sorry. Sprinkle, sprinkle. You dumb enough to do that, I'm sorry for you. I can't deal with dumb people. I mean, smart people, they know better. Dumb people, desperate people will do anything. Get money, be smart, have options. That's what I always tell people. If you dumb, I can't help you. There ain't no way anybody can help you if you stupid. Mm-hmm. She said she learned from me. Well, she didn't learn how to be smart. I tell people all the time, don't say my name if you are desperate and being pygmisha. Don't claim me. If you're desperate, if you are desperate and you're not smart enough to get the bag, flip the money, have options. If you stupid, don't claim me. If your IQ is low, please don't claim me. I teach women to be smart, not desperate. If you're desperate, don't claim me. I'm sorry, but if you're sitting out there, you learned everything from me. Did you learn how to be smart? Did you learn how not to be desperate? Then you didn't learn from me. You learned from whoever putting clips out on TikTok 30 seconds long. You didn't learn from me. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Did you learn from this channel, or did you learn from 30-second clips on TikTok? Because I didn't put those out. You didn't learn from the YouTube channel? Did you learn over here? Did you learn what I said after 30 seconds? Did you hear what I said after sprinkle, sprinkle? Or before? Did you hear that? Did you hear when I said stop being desperate? Did you hear when I said don't be a pygmisha? Did you hear when I talked about background checks? Did you hear when I talked about all this other stuff? About not dealing with men if you have kids until they're old and grown enough to speak for themselves and be in school and whatnot. Did you not hear when I said all of that? Because you was not following the real account. Don't blame me. What I said, don't be desperate, ma'am. You know, when people give off desperate vibes, they attract people that want to take advantage of desperate people. That's why you should never do anything desperate. I don't teach women to be desperate. I teach them to be smart and know their value. Okay?
So this one says, this can happen to anyone, rich, poor, family members, and the list goes on. I'm glad she did something about it immediately as well. Prayers to those babies. Yeah, agreed. When will we learn that nothing is free? Parents should be able to take care of their children and keep them safe. Yeah, they're just not able to do that. And it's true. Nothing is free. I'm not against the, okay, let me find a male to pay my bills thing. But I think what's happening is that, you know, these women think it's a game, you know, because of how it's presented on social media. They watch it, they think it's a game. And you know, it's more dangerous. This is it's the easiest path if you get it right to wealth. It's a shortcut to wealth. This is true. If you marry into it, right? But it will cost you more. Okay, everything is an exchange. It will cost you more. Okay. So it ends up being and coming down to what it is that you're willing to sacrifice or potentially sacrifice. And I don't think that women are sitting down processing through these very real, costly decisions. Right? Even if this hadn't happened to her, I mean, it just costs you so much. That's one of the reasons why I never did it in this way, because I wasn't willing to sacrifice my freedom. And I just knew that. I don't know how I knew it, but just from a very young age, freedom was something that was just very important to me. And I just didn't understand. And I just never felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. Even as a teenager, that freedom, I started my first business when I was, I think like 12, 13 or something, when eBay first came out. And my mom thought I was like dealing illegal substances because we kept getting mail to the house. But what happened was I had started a business, and I was fixing iPhones and selling them on eBay. And I made a lot of money doing that. But yeah, so freedom for me has always been of the utmost importance. And I've subconsciously and consciously just always viewed not having my own things as too much of a limitation to my freedom. So it stands to reason that I always pursued just getting my own things, so that way I could be as free as humanly possible. So everything is an exchange, right? If you get married, if you haven't caught up on the podcast that I made last time on marriage, you're exchanging a good chunk of freedom to be there. And we're not even talking about the risk of getting yourself stuck in a dynamic and a relationship in one house with a male species, the same species that commits over 95% of all unaliving violence and pedo crimes. We're not even going into that. Okay. Just right off the bat, right? You're stuck and your freedom is just cut in half or maybe even less than that right off the bat. Okay. So these are things to think about, right? I don't know. It's to me, it's obvious, but I think what I'm starting to see and what I'm starting to learn is that over 70% of women at least don't think in this way. And they don't really think in depth. You know what I mean? So they are, I still believe, smarter than the male, but that's not a hard thing to accomplish because males are just like epically stupid. Like, I mean, they're just super dumb. I think with all the social media and stuff like that, they walk around choosing because there's too much information out here at this point, choosing to be delusional. Know what I mean? So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. This story is heartbreaking. She practiced no discernment, especially when it came to her children. Exactly. Like, I know if I already had 2 kids, like, what the heck would I be looking for a provider for or a male to pay for things for? My first thought would be, oh my God, like, how do I start a business? How do I make more money? You know what I'm saying? Like, and not be tied down to a male, because clearly if I have 2 kids and I'm not with that male, clearly it probably wasn't a good experience, right? So at that point, you should already have learned, is my thought process, right? Are you blaming her for what her husband did? If someone is a trophy wife, that doesn't automatically mean they are to blame. This happens to all kinds of people in every situation and part of society. Yeah, it's definitely not her fault. Actually, I think she did really good by getting her children out there, but it brings up the sadder conversation that is, there's so many women that will stay regardless. So, society, it makes it to where society is not really worth saving, y'all. It's just not worth it, because these women make up a very large part of society. I mean, I dare to say at least 70% of them are this way. They'll sit there just so they can have their bills paid and things like that, knowing that the child is being abused, and they'll stay and sit there anyway and allow it to happen. So it's not her fault. Actually, I think that she was brave. She made the video. I think that's a very, very brave thing to do. But it does bring up a lot of larger, more intense conversations, which is what we're talking about now. You know, and it also undoubtedly brings up her mistakes and how she got to the place where she is now, of course, because she was making videos trying to propel women towards that same direction. So, of course, naturally, that's going to trigger a response where the wider audience is going to seek to see how we ended up here. A vastly different positioning from, you know, what she's been selling this whole time, right? You spoke nothing but facts, and some will ignore what's happening just to live that life. I have zero respect. This is a really nasty and sensitive take. Ooh, someone says it's a really nasty and sensitive take. Ooh. Yeah, for a bad advice leads to tragic consequences. Yeah, I mean, what do y'all think? So you have women like these saying this is a nasty and sensitive take. You have women like the content creator who just kind of like went all in. And then you have me who's kind of like thinking, well, these are obvious things, right? So this issue that came up, really, it's to me, playing the blame game at this point, irrelevant. What this does is it brings up very, very real issues that are going on a daily basis. I mean, these males rape women and children daily. I talk about this all the time on my channel, all the time, because no one pays attention. No one cares about the children. No one cares about the women. And even the women don't care about the women. They don't even care about themselves. I post the statistics. I post the link to the research paper. I wonder how many people have actually clicked on that link to read that research paper, where it talks about the United Nations and how the United Nations has actually made it a global issue, a global disaster, the rate at which males are unaliving women and children and raping women and children. So this is not like I talked about this, but the only time people start paying attention is when it's a YouTube video, when it's an entertainment, like a show, you know? So that's the main thing here from what I'm seeing is that, well, she can be blamed. Yes, it's unfortunate, but she definitely can be blamed. But at the same time, she cannot be blamed. Because how she can only take blame for her actions. She cannot take blame for the actions of a deprived male. But I tell y'all all the time, over 95% of them are this way. Those are the chances you're working with. Sit back, think about if that's worth it to you.